Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have George Siosi Samuels with us today. George is into many things, blockchain AI. He's also into communities and emerging technologies, Web3, and so forth. He's a fractional community officer. And obviously, a huge innovator and strategist. You're going to see why in a moment. Both of us are into micro-preneurship. It's something I discovered this year. I used to have 200 employees, but nowadays I'm all about small but mighty businesses. The 1% billion-dollar company, as Sam Altman would describe it. Both me and George are in Oaxaca, probably going to meet soon physically and see what can happen there. Fascinating guy, and eager to get into that one. This podcast is presented to you by my podcasting company. If you want to start or scale your podcast, it's called podbuyer.com. You can go on the website. We help you monetize podcasting. George, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
What's up, my man? Thank you for having me. Yeah, really glad to hear that you're in Oaxaca as well. So definitely look forward to catching up in person. So yeah, I'll do my spiel. Originally born in Fiji, migrated to Australia when I was 2. Went to school in Bangladesh. Went to an American international school there. This is where I discovered the term third cultured kid. Not sure if you've heard of this or not before, but essentially there's a bunch of kids in the world who have gone to international schools or military brats, as they're called, and happen to essentially grow up in these type of schools, which is just an amalgamation of all these other different cultures. And often you'll know a TCK when you ask them where they're from and they struggle to answer it because they've kind of lived everywhere but never really felt like they've fit in anywhere. So that TCK aspect is probably what fueled a lot of my interests in community, culture, and tech. Because of my own mixed parents and my own mixed upbringing, I learned a lot from my Polynesian side. So my mom is Tuvaluan Samoan, dad is Fijian Indian. And I realized as I started, was raised in the West, got educated in the West, a lot of these things that came naturally in my Polynesian culture was starting to make its way into business and in tech. So, over the last decade, there's just been more and more interest in using community as a form of sales, marketing, ops, etc. And I think what's been fascinating is exploring that intersection of community, culture, and tech in a professional sense. And that is what has led me to, being exposed and being involved in a lot of different ventures, which is at the intersection of community and tech. And of course, right now, the latest iteration is AI, right? That seems to be what everybody's talking about. But over the last, however many years, it's been blockchain, Web3, crypto, etc. So my company, Faiā, which you had mentioned, which I'm the managing director for, we've positioned ourselves as community growth partners for emerging tech companies. And this is also something else that's kind of in line with the rising trend of micropreneurs. The partnership model kind of solves an issue that freelancers and agencies have, where, with freelancers, of course, you're limited to just yourself. With agencies, it's less about the end-to-end solution, and part of the growth partner model, I think, just works really well with what I've personally experienced over time, anyways, in terms of leveraging my leadership with community and tech, but also being able to work with a company for a good chunk of time while having it be profitable. Because, if you work with agencies, man, you know what it's like. Sometimes, you just keep adding more and more clients and then the quality can suffer. The partnership model is working really well.
Right. And what do you want to accomplish in this life?
In this life, whoa, that's deep, man. My deeper mission actually has to do with the Pacific region. And it has to do with empowering a lot of people in the Pacific region to embrace more of this emerging technologies to, I guess, help the underdogs, rise up and do what we're doing, which is leveraging this tech so that you can do more with less. And then this is why I have such an interest in micropreneurs, because it's not just about being alone or, trying to be the next Amazon or Facebook. A large majority of the world are fine with family-owned businesses. Small businesses do make up a large chunk of the population. And I think with the emerging tech, there's still so many people in the world who just do not know, basics. that if they were to understand how much free information exists on the internet and really use that to empower themselves, I think that'd be a big key. But that's probably my deeper mission, is to empower the Pacific region, and everything I'm doing is actually related to that.
Right. I would guess starting with communities. So how does one start and scale a burgeoning community?
There's a lot of different ways, right? There's so many different playbooks for people who are looking to start and launch. I think having a curious, experimental mindset has been, for me personally, one of the easiest ways to start and build communities. I think the traditional way, having worked from freelancer startups all the way up to corporate enterprise and government, I've seen how people treat launches. And the traditional way was to have the big launch, right? I think that worked a couple of decades ago. But I think these days, the ones who I'm seeing are doing a lot better are the ones who are able to just, kind of build in public, treat all of their projects as experiments so that they can validate their ideas faster with actual paying customers, and avoid the biggest issues for a lot of businesses, which is, finding product market fit or just having something that's profitable for yourself. And I've gone through all of those, the rookie mistakes. But some of those basics of, validating an idea for a profitable business, communities can play a big part. And one of my favorite ways of validating ideas through community right now is, on a platform like, say, Twitter or even WhatsApp. You can have a concept, bring people together in a group DM, whether that's on Twitter or WhatsApp, and very quickly validate with the group on a product that people are willing to pay for. And this tends to be the way that I get started. So actually in Oaxaca, we have a group called Oaxaca GSD. And often with the types of projects that I like to get involved with, usually it's better if I find ideas that are solving my own problem. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs often do that. They look at something and they go, there's got to be a better way, or, how can I solve this for myself? And by doing so, you help other people. So that tends to be the way that I start these communities, and I always look at how to monetize upfront. I'm not a fan of, like, I think, when it comes to, say, newsletters, get 10K free subs and then start monetizing. You can start monetizing from day one. And that's why micro communities and profitable communities are a thing, or becoming more of a thing.
Explain your fascination with micro empires and explain the role that AI would play into these.
Yep. So the micro, I think this has always been a constant for me throughout my life in terms of smaller players having a outsized impact or larger impact. I first came across Bitcoin back in 2013, right? And Bitcoin being a micropayments technology. It's been fascinating to see how that has evolved. I think Bitcoin itself and the community around BTC have really strayed from the micropayments technology aspect. There's still so much to be explored there. But with any truly innovative technology, it takes about 30 years. This is quite interesting. If you look at like tech innovation, it's always about 30 years before it actually hits like a 51% mass adoption for the world. The internet, social media, all of these sort of technology disruptions. But the micro, I think, just keeps rearing its head in many different ways. Is kind of what started me down the path. Then it became the influence of micro behaviors for corporates. So when I was working corporate, I actually helped the last company I worked at introduce Slack, or roll Slack out to that corporation. And they were the first enterprise to adopt Slack in the Asia Pacific region. So this was really interesting to see how something so subtle, like the fun aspect of Slack for corporate, how it could completely consume from a cultural standpoint, but started with tech. And that really interested me. And this is then what led to, my fascination again with more of the micro. Then I started looking at other areas. So history. If you look at history, there are countless examples of these micro empires. They just went by different names. And so in the ancient past, there were essentially city-states, right? The ancient city-states were the micro empires. And we remember quite a lot of them, Sparta being one of them, right? These city-states were small in geographical size, but had an outsized impact historically and in many other ways. And that is translated into the modern day. So we have also nations, right? nations like Singapore, or Monaco or Switzerland, right? These are micro players, again, outsized impact. And then into the digital realm, I think tech has just enabled. So this relates to the AI aspect, right? It's just enabling people to have less human overhead, right? So you talked about having 200 employees, right? You're finding that there's so many things that can be automated with AI now, right? If you learn it properly. And AI is definitely allowing this micropreneur to be able to do more with less. And I think the reason why I enjoy micropreneurship over solopreneurship, I thought solopreneurship was great too. I went through that phase, right? But then I was like, you know what? I actually enjoy running with a human team. As much as I love my tech, it's just fun, you know, and if I'm going to do business, I want to enjoy myself as well. And I think that is also a result of just maturing, right, and going through multiple different ventures and figuring out what you really want. And, you know, business is an infinite game. So the only way to survive is to actually enjoy and have fun with it.
Yeah, and you've touched various fields. Would you qualify yourself as a polymath? And is there such a thing as finding yourself? Isn't the goal of life exploring?
Hmm. Interesting. This can get very philosophical. So I think obviously different people have different ideas of what the purpose of life is. I think self-actualization is definitely a luxury for many of us, you know, who have gotten to that point where we can even think about self-actualization. There are many people in the world who still deal with survival, right? But for, I guess, folks like ourselves, yes, you know, realizing our full potential is definitely a big part of it. But I think I always do think about other folks, and this ties into why I'm interested in the Pacific region, because if I look at my own ancestry from the Polynesian side, the general flow in terms of migration was they kept going to larger and larger countries or nations, right, for better opportunities. The classic migrant story. And I think part of my purpose in this life is actually to use all of these benefits that I've been given through, you know, education and the sacrifices of my ancestors to the region from which my ancestors originated. So part of my purpose is not just self-actualization, or maybe it's through, you know, helping others, but it kind of tackles both. And this taps into, I don't know if you know the story of the symbol for the sign Sagittarius, Chiron, but Chiron was a mythological figure that was also known as the wounded healer. And I think this kind of relates to how I've experienced things in my lifetime, but in kind of healing or fixing things for myself, I naturally help other people. And so for me, my purpose is really about like, okay, don't worry so much about everything else happening in the world. Just like kind of focus on yourself, fix your things, be you, and naturally it will help other people. Because I think I had it flipped when I was younger. And that's where I'm at in my life right now.
I vibe with so many things that you're saying. It's quite fabulous what you're onto. Why did you choose Oaxaca as your quote unquote home, by the way?
Yeah, Oaxaca has a very interesting energy about it. You know, I'm very much someone who, even though I come from a technical world, I'm very logical about a lot of things. But because of my Polynesian background, you know, we're used to talking about things that are, you know, like about dreams that are spiritual, that are energetic, right? And all I can say is that when I was flying into Oaxaca, I felt this sense of calm. Like, and every time I come here, it always feels peaceful for me coming back to this land. And so that has been something I've been exploring while here in Oaxaca. But that's kind of the reason why. My partner and I, we both felt the same.
I feel that exact same way too. Yeah, that's that feeling of home, right? It's like you're
Mm,
calm, you're resting, you're in recovery mode. Your cells are healing. You know, you're not in this stressed out environment. I feel a bit of stress when I go back to my native Montreal. You know, like everything's
mm,
cold. There's no sun.
yep,
People are colder too. You know, the Latam culture, yeah, it's warm, you know, like, and
yes,
here, if you go outside, it's probably in 2005-ish, you know, and that feels
yep,
good in some respect when you're behind a computer screen every day. It
yeah,
feels really relaxing, I guess.
100%. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I think that's one of the benefits, yeah, of a place like this. And again, I acknowledge that for us, we have the privilege of being able to just, move to a country, right? Whereas I know many Mexicans are still seeking better opportunities in other Western countries. And I think there's a responsibility that I feel too, is that like, while we're here to honor and give back in some way. And what's even more interesting is that I've learned more about my own ancestry here in Oaxaca than I have even when I was back in like the Asia Pacific region. So I don't know what that's about, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the Mayan pyramids here. Yeah, I sometimes think about that. I was thinking about that yesterday actually, because
Yeah.
I'm literally on the other side of pyramid. So I thought like back then, these folks to get where I am right now, they needed to travel one full day to get at the other
Yes.
side of the Oaxacan Valley. Because the
Yep.
big mountain range that you see from El Centro, that's where I am,
Yes.
it's like in
Uh-huh.
San
Yeah.
Felipe. Beautiful. What are your top three goals this year?
Yeah. So my top three goals for this year, essentially is, well, one is to kind of reposition Faiā and focus more on Faiā because I had multiple ventures over the last 5 years. When I launched Faiā, it was back in 2018 in Singapore, right? And over that time, I think I would say the first 5 years have been very much an exploration exercise. And I was essentially trying out different business models, trying my hand at like multiple businesses, trying my hand out at the whole VC game. So for that second startup that I had, I got investment from Tim Draper. And so that was a great ride. But then kind of through all of that, I learned that I do enjoy the bootstrapping aspect, right? And I do enjoy working with a team. So yeah, this year is about repositioning Faiā as the community growth partner for emerging tech companies. So there's more of a focus on that. The other side is actually building up the team. So have spent some time. I just hired a new COO and a CTO, and we're leveraging the fractional model. So this is something, right? I don't know if you've heard much about the fractional model.
Yeah, I have a business that's only serves fractional, so quite bullish on the model.
Yep. And it works, I think, for a lot of CXOs, right? And there's a community, a Slack community I'm part of called Fractionals United. If you've got a business that's serving them, happy to connect unless you're already there. So that's led by a woman named Karina. And yeah, so the fractional model works really well. And so the focus on Faiā. And yeah, this is actually leading towards a larger goal or vision that is about 15 years out from now. And it has to do with the blockchain aspects. And so Faiā is focused more on companies that are in the emerging tech space, are community centric, and typically $10 million plus.
Fascinating. So what does a day in your life look like?
A day in the life of me. I got to say, over the last year, kind of like you, I had let go of a whole bunch of staff and everything from the previous years. I just got fed up, and I was like, you know what? I know that this cannot be, so much of this can be automated. I just wanted free up time. So last year was a bit of a reset, and the day in life actually was quite balanced, especially here in Oaxaca. So I would very simply, the first half of the day is focused on fire-related things. The second half of the day is focused on more of the client-related things. And the team, we actually divvy things up based on energy. So energy, again, being, if we look at the 5 different elements, earth, fire, wind, water, metal, got the 5 work days kind of split like that. So Mondays, it's one of those days where we just do admin things. So it's a steel day, metal day. That's all we do. Tuesday is a growth day, strategy day. Wednesday and Thursday is a fire day, so that's more people oriented. And then Friday is an autumn day, which is usually about reviewing. And we try to keep to that. And interestingly, we're actually in the process of exploring a 13-month calendar. I don't know if you've been seeing this, but there are more and more people adopting a 13-month calendar, man. And it's kind of fascinating to me.
No, I haven't seen that. I know that French people back then during the revolution, they added one day to the week and it got everyone confused. And I'm
Yeah.
also confused with the time change in Mexico. I'm not
Yep.
sure what's up there. I am familiar with the Zulu time zone, which I think would fix everything, but not the 13-month year.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'll shoot you some stuff after. But there was a time where a lot of people were using the 13-month calendar, and it actually solves some of these issues with leap years and provides more consistency for the months as well. So it'll be this fixed same number of days. The Mayans, the Aztecs, the Toltecs, they all utilize this. And when I was in Guatemala, I was learning more about the Mayan culture and the 13-month calendar. And I was like, holy cow, this stuff is very, very precise. And so I go, why did we change? you know? But I get it. I think it's one of those things where it's like, the Gregorian calendar, Western thing, that kind of took over. What's popular isn't always what's true or better. And for standardization, that's typically what happens, But yeah, there's more interest.
Because if you add 1 month, then it disbalances the whole thing. But when you think about time, it's all human's construct. That's what you
Yes.
realize that pretty much everything are human constructs.
Yeah.
How we name the disease, whether they're mental, quote unquote, or physical. And yeah, like as you've seen here in Oaxaca, it hasn't rained for like 2 or 3 months, So what the hell's happening? And then I have
Yeah.
questions. Is it always that hot? Is it
Mm,
sometimes colder? For my wedding, I've researched and it was supposed not to rain and it rained and it was
yeah.
super hot, So yeah, like I'd be interested in learning more. Last question, how do you recover? How do you recharge your batteries? That on the weekend or?
Recharge. Yeah. Recharging for me is a combination of, getting out to nature. Oaxaca has a lot of great spots, for us to get out to. One of my favorite places here is actually San Jose del Pacifico. Right?
Shrooms.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't even done the shrooms there, but energetically, again, it's just for me, mountains and volcanoes have always been my power places, So it was also fascinating to learn that the whole psychedelics movement started from pretty much Oaxaca, right? With
Yeah.
Maria Sabina and everything.
Yeah, and psilocybin is the substance that has the most of my attention nowadays. Like in Canada, they legalized THC, but THC you can't go really. Well, I think you can, but it's not like shrooms. Shrooms you need to dance with a while with them, like do many ceremonies, and after a while you don't understand how they work. And um they're quite fascinating. I did shrooms once in San Jose de Pacifico, but they were too fresh and they didn't do
Mm,
any effects. So apparently you need to dry them up so that the psilocybin can concentrate. But I really much vibe with the place as well. We
yeah.
went out on long hikes there.
Yep.
Have you been to Mazunte?
No, not yet, actually.
Yeah, there's the Hidaya Yoga Center. I did various retreats there, so you'll vibe with that place a lot. And then there's Huatulco, where I got married a couple months ago. It's a beautiful place. There's jungles there, so it's
Yeah.
like deep Mayan jungle. And
Yep.
yeah, for the mountains, you can just go up here in San Felipe. It's really at some point when you climb in the mountains, you see that the climate change, it's different types of trees and all that. So would love to show you around here. Where can people find out more about you, George?
So you can just go to georgesiosi.com. So that's George, SIOSI.com. And then for Faiā, my website, it's faiacorp.com, FAIACORP.com. And for social media, it's the same George Siosi handle. So all across socials, just search for me there.